everybody, to a special Fight and Focus ahead of the 2021 Impact Bound for Glory pay-per-view, which will take place on Saturday, October 23rd from Sam's Town live in Las Vegas, straight to you wherever you are right here on FITE. I'm Josh Shernoff, and today I am joined by three individuals who will each vie to capture or retain a championship Saturday, October 23rd at Bound for Glory. First, she is the reigning Knockouts champion and will defend that title against the legendary Mickie James. Please welcome Deonna Purrazzo.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. Excited to have you here on Fight and Focus once again. I feel like we've done a bunch of these.
Yeah.
But here comes some people that I've never done a Fight and Focus with, also joining us. He will challenge for the vacant X Division title in a triple threat match. Welcome, Steve Maclin. Steve, welcome to Fight and Focus.
Well, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And finally, we are joined by one half of the Knockouts Tag Team Champions who, along with Rosemary, will defend their titles against the debuting team of Cassie Lee and Jessicka McKay, the Inspiration. Please welcome Havok. Havok, welcome to Fight and Focus.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So let's jump right into it. Bound for Glory. This is one of the biggest events of the year for Impact Wrestling. We're going to start. Steve, why don't we start with you? You are challenging in this match that, I mean, look, it's X Division. Anybody who has ever followed the X Division knows that you never know what to expect in an X Division match. What are the challenges that you think facing in this triple threat match? Obviously, you haven't had time because of the nature of how we got here to necessarily prepare for all of the participants in the match. So what is your mindset going into this?
Well, it is a triple threat, and on the way to this for Bound for Glory, it's been triple threat matches for the qualifiers. I had a triple threat match recently at Victory Road, and then obviously just beating Black Taurus and Petey Williams. I think I got the up now on the triple threat stipulation. Now it's just worrying about who that third participant is.
Right. And what is your suggestion at this point? Because I believe as this is going to be airing about a week before, we might not know for a while until right up a day or so beforehand. So who do you, who is your guess and who would you prefer?
Well, obviously Trey Miguel's in there right now with me as well. And then depending on whether it's Willie Mack, Rohit, or El Phantasmo, the Bullet Club will find out. But doesn't really matter. I know the outcome. You're looking at the new X Division champion.
Do you think when you talk about like El Phantasmo, do you think that along with him, you mentioned the Bullet Club, that kind of is, all right, maybe it's not a triple threat. Maybe now there's going to be more people involved.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's never say never. You don't know what's going to come. I control what I can control, and we'll be prepared on my end, no matter what it is.
All right, Deonna, I want to talk to you. Man, Mickie James, the last time you and I were in the same place, you wrestled Melina.
Yeah.
So obviously no stranger to wrestling some veterans in this business. But what is your feeling going into this against Mickie James? Mickie James, who, I mean, in Impact and just in women's wrestling in general, is such a legend for you to be able to go in there. I feel like every time I talk to you, it's, hey, what else do you have to prove? What else do you have to prove? And here we are again, right? On the biggest stage, Bound for Glory. Here you are against Mickie James.
I'm excited because I feel like this is a real clash of generations. And especially for me, I've been in this situation numerous times over the last year. So I feel like I'm walking in pretty confident, knowing that I've proved myself, I've handled myself, I've retained my Knockouts championship in this situation time and time again. I have nothing else to prove. And Mickie has everything to prove. This is only her second match after almost a year of not wrestling, and it's for the Knockouts championship. And again, there's this dynamic between us. So I'm more confident than I've ever been going into Bound for Glory.
You are definitely someone who does not lack for confidence regularly. So Mickie James, I want to pay attention to that. Havok, you and Rosemary, you are the Knockout Tag Team Champions. And we just found out that you will be facing the Inspiration in their debut. Man, what are you feeling going into this? First of all, you have very little time to prepare. there's obviously pressure from the Inspiration standpoint, right? Cassie Lee, Jessicka McKay, they are coming in here. This is their debut. They want to make a name for themselves. They want to say, hey, we are here, we're making a stand, and we're walking out Knockouts Tag Team Champions. For you guys, I mean, you've got these are big name talents coming in here trying to take your championship from you. So where's your mindset? And of course, speak on behalf of Rosemary as well, but where is your mindset going into this match with the Inspiration across the ring from you?
You are right in saying that we have maybe little time to prepare for this fight going into Bound for Glory. But as far as I'm concerned, Decay will fight anyone, anytime, anywhere. I've already seen complaints from people online. Oh, they're getting a title shot right off the bat. And, what did they do to deserve this? Well, here's the thing. I'm not going to sell my opponent short. These are two ladies that have been in the business for a very long time, and they are incredibly talented. However, like I said, we will fight anyone, anytime. It doesn't matter. We're not going to sit here and gripe about how they haven't worked their way up or climbed this ladder. I know that we're going to go in, just as Deonna said too, there's lots of things at stake, especially on this night. She has the Knockouts Championship to defend. We have the Knockouts Tag Team titles to defend. And we're going into this as a family, Rosemary and I am confident that we will retain our tag titles. They're with us for a reason. It took me a long time, over a year, to get the opportunity to hold a championship again. I even went up against Deonna over this last year. And I'm not going to say, I lost by fluke. No, she's the Knockouts champion for a good reason.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But that being said, back to our title belts here. I'm fairly confident there's a reason why Rosemary and I became the tag team champions so quickly when we joined forces. It's because it was with us all along. Together, we are a cohesive unit. I believe we're the best tag team at Impact Wrestling right now in the women's division. I'm not worried going into this at all.
Now, you said something interesting there. The best tag team in Impact Wrestling, best women's tag team in Impact Wrestling. For a long time, we've heard in recent years, there's been, the women's revolution. There's been obviously some phenomenal. Deonna, you were involved in the NWA, had the all women's pay-per-view there. But Impact, to me, for decades, has kind of been the standard bearer for women's wrestling. And to have people come in who, the Inspirations, they came in as, they were in another place where they were very successful. They were tag team champions, but they were in a place that was just kind of, hey, look at how the women's division is just starting. Whereas Impact, it's like, hey, this is what we do, right? So is there something else, aside from just you as being the champion, but is there something, maybe a chip on your shoulder going into this, you and Rosemary, of saying, congratulations and everything, not to take anything away from the success that they had elsewhere, but you're now coming in as women wrestlers into Impact Wrestling, and this is not new for us. This is not a new thing for the women to have tag team championships, for the women to be a main focus of the product. Is there something, a little chip on your shoulder saying, all right, come on in here, but we're going to show you, welcome to the world of women's wrestling?
I wouldn't say that I have a chip on my shoulder going into it, but I do think that these girls do have a rude awakening coming. I see their little comments and their little stabs, since they've been announced as debuting at Bound for Glory against the tag champions, and that's great. However, I feel that they should probably give us a little more credit because, like you were saying before, yes, they've wrestled many other places. There are wrestlers that have come from everywhere else to join Impact. But I will say this, there is no other wrestling company like Impact Wrestling. We even have different realms, such as the Undead realm. And I promise you, the two of them have never experienced anything quite like it. And if they come in here strutting any type of way and we don't like it, they might just find themselves there with us.
Now, you're talking about, coming from another place, and I guess I'm the one who brought that up originally, but Steve Maclin, that comes to you, you're a guy, you're one of those people who came from elsewhere and found a new opportunity in Impact Wrestling and have excelled. A lot of the times you have to go to the right place to realize that you weren't there all along. But now this opportunity for the Impact X Division title, and then I want to kind of talk about the card in general, but I just wanted to go back to the importance of that title. I just talked about how Impact for decades now has been known as the place to be for women's wrestling, for showing that respect to women's wrestling. Long before there was a revolution, there was Impact's knockout division. The X division is kind of what put Impact Wrestling on the map years ago. That was, along with, and not to, of course, take anything away from anybody else, but that was one of those unique aspects. And I feel like it's even become that much more unique. And you just talked about how you defeated Petey Williams, who was one of the, the forefathers, if you will, of the X division. What would it mean to you to be able to walk out of Bound for Glory as the X division champion? You already told us that you're going to, but what would it mean to you and to your career?
Obviously, this past year has been a bit of a roller coaster, and since coming to Impact, I am unbeaten. It's going into Bound for Glory is going to be no different. And for me to stand there at the end of the night holding the X Division title, it's just to show the world completely who I am and who Steve Maclin is. And it's been held down for long enough, and I've been a hidden gem that nobody really kind of knew about, and that's the best thing, is I am the unknown. Coming into Impact, there wasn't the big name to come out of WWE that got let go. So it's one of those things now where I have a lot to prove, but it's also a lot of people don't know a lot about me, and that's a lot more a test to me where I have the edge on that.
And that's kind of the fun part, I'd imagine, for you too, is because while you say, maybe you weren't the one where everybody goes, oh my God, Steve Maclin's coming, we're so excited. Although I will tell you, there was plenty of excitement when those vignettes started airing. So, people do know who you are, of course. But do you think that maybe that's kind of the fun of getting to go out there and introduce yourself really to people in a way that maybe there's, for instance, the inspiration coming in, there's more of an expectation of who they are, of what you're wanting to expect. Whereas with you, this last year, you've really been able to continuously remind or introduce yourself to people.
And that's the one good thing in Impact Wrestling is a lot of people, a lot of the talent roster from top to bottom get to do that with that creative liberty of being able to show the world who we are. And that's what everybody's gotten to see out of me. And I'm proud of it. And I love it because it puts pressure on myself more than outside pressure coming towards me. I take a lot of pride in what I do. And that's the best thing is I get to flourish at what I do by, again, nobody knows a lot about me. You know of me. You don't know a lot about me. And that's the best thing is I get to show a lot of different layers to who I am and what I'm going to be about. And then being in the X Division with the clash of styles that you get in the X Division, I think that's another thing that brings the unknown of me because a lot of people want to do these flips, psychotic dives and everything they want to do. That's great. I'm going to punch you in the face. That's just what it's going to come down to.
That'll stop those flips quickly.
Exactly. So it's just one of those things where it comes down to, do you have the balls to step in the ring with me and fight? And once I do win the X Division title at Bound for Glory, that puts the target on my back. And that's what I love most than anything because I don't have to look behind me. I get to look right ahead of me and whoever's coming towards me.
Havok, I'll start with you on this. The fun for me when I'm doing these Fight and Focus shows is that you always know, no matter how well known a promotion is, there's always going to be somebody who is stumbling onto this Fight and Focus and going, oh, let me see, maybe this will sell me on the pay-per-view, right? Mm-hmm. So to that new person who's watching this, who maybe it's been a number of years, maybe they're not familiar with the current roster of Impact Wrestling, or maybe they're huge fans of Impact Wrestling and we're just trying to get them even more excited for the event, which I think that's mostly what we have here. But to the new person watching this saying, okay, you piqued my interest. Looks like it's an interesting card. We're about to talk about that card in a minute. But if you had to describe to somebody what makes Impact Wrestling so special in a time where, pro wrestling is blowing up right now. There are plenty of places to work. That forbidden door has been opened, right? So we all know about all these other promotions. We can all openly talk about all these other promotions, but if you had to sell somebody on why Impact Wrestling is so special and why Bound for Glory especially is an event that they need to purchase, what would you say?
I would say to anyone who is unsure of wanting to tune into Impact based off of, what people might be saying about it. Otherwise, there's always haters out there. Or someone who, is new to the product. The reason why you should tune in to Bound for Glory and then thereafter just start watching the damn show every week. We literally, in my honest opinion, have the best roster in general in wrestling on TV. I don't care what anybody says. My love is professional wrestling, but I am most passionate about women's wrestling. Impact Wrestling has put women's wrestling on the forefront from the beginning. They have the best women's division on television, and they always have. There are women on the roster that fit every demographic, that somebody out there can be like, hey, I relate to her. I look like her, this, that, whatever. She represents who I feel I am as a person. And I think that's beautiful. The other thing I love about Impact Wrestling is that our women's division, although, there's not enough title belts to go around for everybody, only the best get to hold the championships.
Sure.
But no woman is lost in the shuffle. Every girl is busy. Every girl is on TV every week doing something. We have one of the best. We have so many of the best men's wrestlers in the world on our roster. I'll go ahead and throw his name out there. Josh Alexander, hands down, one of the best wrestlers in the world, has worked his ass off to get to where he is. But guess what? We have a whole bunch of people like that on our roster. And Bound for Glory is Impact Wrestling's biggest show of the year, the biggest pay-per-view of the year. It's going to be in Vegas. It's going to be a blast. If you can't be there, there's no reason why you can't sit your ass on your comfy couch at home and just tune in and see why Deonna Purrazzo is going against Mickie James and see if she might retain that title, or who knows, anything can happen. She's pretty damn confident. I'm a believer. Trust me. I've been in the ring with her. I know. And I'm a monster, and I'm strong, and I'm a powerhouse. And she almost snapped my arm off. So she's a champion for a reason.
And hey, they can watch. Yeah, no.
I was just gonna say. I'm just saying. This is especially if you're a wrestling fan in general, but if you're especially a women's wrestling fan, like there's no reason to miss this show.
Absolutely.
And then come on, Steve Maclin just terrified me with what he said. Early, I believe he's going to win that title now.
Yeah, look, there's confidence on this panel. At least 3 out of the 4 of us are very confident. But one thing I am confident about is that Bound for Glory is a can't miss show, and I want to talk about the card with all of you. But first, I want to give an opportunity to Steve Maclin, Deonna Purrazzo. I want to, if there's anything you want to add about Impact Wrestling and why this is something that people need to check out if they're on the fence about. Because, hey, let's be honest, there's a lot of wrestling out there, so we need to make sure that they understand that this is some of the best wrestling you're going to see. So if you have to pick and choose, well, we want to pick Impact on Saturday the 23rd, right? So, Deonna, do you have anything to add?
I feel like Jess surmised Impact the best. I feel like not just our women's division, but the men too, hit every, whether it's you like technical wrestling, whether you like lucha libre, whether you like powerhouses. Our women's division encompasses every demographic and every style and every type of wrestling there is, but our men do too. But also Impact has kind of been the central hub of all of this Forbidden Door. I feel like everyone's gotten an opportunity to come into Impact Wrestling and test themselves against our roster. There's not many other places that, have let Impact come and go against their champions the way Impact has. So I think that especially with Bound for Glory, where the Forbidden Door is free and open and flowing. All the companies are going to be a part of this. It really shows how confident Impact is in the people that it employs and the talent it employs, and that they can, across the board, get the job done. So whether it's me versus Mickie, or Decay versus Inspiration, or Steve and say El Phantasmo is in his match, that's, New Japan coming in. I think that Impact is going to stand dominant at the end of the pay-per-view in every situation.
Very well said. And Steve, do you have anything to add as far as why people need to be watching this pay-per-view?
Just like Deonna said it, Jess said it too, and then Deonna just said it from top to bottom. This roster, since I've gotten there at Impact Wrestling, it's funny, when I first got there, Deonna looked at me and she's like, "How do you know everybody?" I was like, "Well, I've been down the road a little bit, or they've come into my old venue of area where we all kind of meet each other in the wrestling world." Sure. And from top to bottom, though, this is the first time where everybody has their own niche, and just again, whether they're a powerhouse, high flyer, whether they're actual just gimmick of just being a character, it's one of those things where everybody just fits in, and it's like the land of misfit toys, but the correct version of it. It just all works together, and that's the one special thing, is like everybody there watches. Everybody knows what's going on. It's very family oriented too when you're behind the scenes, and that's the one cool thing to notice. And but for Bound for Glory to be a part of it, for me, there's pressure on myself, and that's the one thing I am looking forward to, is being able to just go out there and perform and show the world at Bound for Glory, which is the biggest pay-per-view in Impact Wrestling of the year, and I'm highly looking forward to it.
So let's talk a little bit about the card. Man, you talk about the roster. Well, how about this? We have a 20-man Call Your Shot Gauntlet match. Just to name a few of what's been announced: Brian Myers, Rich Swann, Moose, Eddie Edwards, W. Morrissey, and then 15 other wrestlers that have not yet been announced. The winner receives a trophy and a contract for a title match of their choosing within 1 year. This is a match that can, in a second, put somebody on the map who maybe, this was the opportunity we were talking about before with the women's division, about how nobody is just kind of sitting there. No one's floundering. Everybody has something to do. Well, here's an opportunity for somebody to say they feel like, hey, I'd like to be doing more. Go grab that brass ring. Kind of tough to ask your predictions for who's going to win a gauntlet match when there's 15 people that haven't been announced. But does anybody have a suggestion? Somebody you think is going to come in there? Steve, maybe you're going to run in. Why not? Right?
Yeah, why not?
Could happen.
Anything could happen. It's wrestling.
Yep. But let's move on to we'll talk about. I mean, we've talked about the Triple Threat Tournament Finals for the vacant Impact X Division title. Trey Miguel versus Steve Maclin versus, who knows, El Phantasmo or Rohit Raju or Willie Mack. And again, you don't necessarily have a preference, but why don't we go around? Steve, I think we know who your pick is. So why don't we go, Deonna? Who do you have?
Out of the other room and yell at me if I don't say him.
Yeah. I wouldn't do it.
I picked Steve Maclin. I mean, just being able to see him grow over the last few months he's been with Impact, being able to have that creative freedom that we all have an Impact. But I think I have a soft spot for you because I saw where you were, and it was very synonymous for where I am, and to see your growth and to see how much you've come into your own and enjoy wrestling and get to show the world who you are for the first time is very much my journey as well. So I'm always rooting for that person to make a statement, and to see you win the X Division title would be amazing for me.
Now, Havok, are we going to make things awkward here, or are you going to say Steve Maclin?
No, I think especially based off of what Steve said earlier, I'll just weigh in my opinion here. I do think that there's a lot of pressure on you coming into this match. I do think that you have a lot to prove. And since you've debuted at Impact Wrestling, you have had an impressive, just smashing people left and right. And then, you and Trey Miguel got in the ring, and we're so busy, when we're at work, and there's very little very few times where I get to stop and like just watch the monitor and feel like a fan watching. And I saw Steve and Trey wrestling, and I was like, this match is awesome, and you're a powerhouse. And I feel like because you have so much riding on your shoulders, and based off of what you felt earlier, how you feel going in, I could totally see you walking out the champion for sure, 100%. So I think I'll pick this guy.
Well,
Thank you.
Well, then
You're welcome.
Then, Steve, this might get awkward for you because we have the next up the Impact Knockouts Tag Team title match. The Inspiration will be challenging for the Decay's Tag Team Championship. Who's walking out champion? Steve, we'll start with you.
Well, I'm going to go with Jess and Rosemary just because I know who the Inspiration is, I know what they're kind of about from elsewhere, and they, in the sense, kind of like me, have more pressure, but this is their first time in a new home. This has been Jess's home and Rosemary's home forever. I'll give the champions this one on that.
Thank you.
Short and simple. They got the home field advantage.
Deonna, how do you feel about that?
Honestly, I feel the same exact way. I am friends with the Inspiration, and I'm excited for them to, get that opportunity to come out and show themselves and show the world what they're about in a new place. But I feel like Impact has a point to prove as a whole, where these are our championships. This is our company. And we're taking that back a little. And I feel like there's home field advantage to Decay going into this to keep those championships at home. And then also, they've been a team forever. We haven't seen Jess and Cassie be a team in quite a long time. So who knows what that dynamic looks like? We know exactly what Decay is all about, what they look like as a team. They've been dominant thus far. And I think that really they have all of the balls in their court to retain their championships.
And now we're gonna try one more time to have some controversy here. The Impact Knockouts title match, the champion, the virtuosa Deonna Purrazzo, will be defending against the legendary Mickie James. All right, Steve, we'll start with you. Who's walking out champion?
Well, Deonna,
Steve?
hands down. Listen, it's hanging up right here.
I was gonna say, she even lent you the title to hang up in your own home.
In my own home, yeah.
In your own private office.
Private office.
Yep.
No, I've gotten to see a different side out of Deonna with Mickie coming in. Just because I even said it to her when it happened. I was like, everybody's picking you to be this wrong person and all this when Mickie came back and interrupted your moment. So it's funny to just look at it of like where everybody's kind of coming at Deonna for it. And if I as a wrestling fan, I would still be on her side just because it just looks wrong in that sense. And just for her to see where she's going and what she's done, and even just going to Mickey's house and just kicking the ever-living crap out of her in her barn, that was entertaining to me to watch. I didn't know where she went. I'm like, okay. So it's a different side of her. And then it's also, again, like Deonna said before, Mickie, it's her second match in however long. So it's, again, Deonna's got the upper hand on that too.
And Havok, what do you think?
Yes. Well, it's I love talking about all of this stuff because it's specifically women's wrestling, and I'm talking, it's interesting for me because from my standpoint, because these are two women that I have shared a ring with at one time or another. And Deonna, you're so incredibly confident, and just when like I said earlier, there's a reason why you're the Knockouts champion. Mickie is definitely, she's someone who, these are two generations colliding, right? And Mickie James has been in this business for a long time, and she has gotten to go everywhere and have multiple opportunities at all these places everywhere. And she has absolutely killed it. I remember she was one of the people that I watched, early on in my career, and someone who I definitely looked up to. And then, this is the only job, one of the only jobs I feel like, you come up looking up to somebody and then you end up, you're in the locker room working with them. But I do feel like, Deonna, you are so confident, and definitely the only advice I have for you stepping in the ring with Mickie is don't underestimate what she can do in the ring. You guys have been the brawling that I've seen between the two of you leading up to this moment. And like Steve said earlier, I've been kind of following Deonna's career since I first discovered her, and just seeing where she started and how good she is now. I think that Mickie, she might have her hands, she might have bitten off a bigger piece than she could chew. I'm going to go ahead and go with Deonna on this. I think that she's going to retain, because I don't think I see this being a way longer title run than just to Bound for Glory. I see you doing far more incredible things with so many more people. And I'm going to be honest, now this is going to sound really mean, for as confident and as cocky as you get, I love seeing when you and whoever you've offended start getting into a big fist fight, because it's like, oh, look at these humans. Oh my God, this is going to be so fun. So it's fun to watch. And as much as I want to go with Mickie James on this, I see Deonna walking out the victor.
Thank you.
So. All right. For the record, I think all of you are going to win your matches. Just throwing that out there. I
hell yeah.
Couple more here before we wrap things up here on Fight and Focus. There are a few more matches on here, because what a stacked card it is. The Impact World Tag Team titles are on the line. The Good Brothers will be defending those against Finjuice or the Bullet Club. What's the story there, and who do you have winning?
That's a hard one. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll start with you though. So now you're on the spot.
I'm in the hot seat. Gosh, my gut, I initially wanted to say Finjuice. And that goes against everything I've said about Impact keeping their championships and keeping it at home. But, I just feel like Finjuice has kind of had the Good Brothers numbers, and they've been through so much the last few months that it's just kind of time for them to like get their comeuppance and shut the bad guys up yeah, my gut says Finjuice.
All right.
I'm sorry.
No.
I just have to chime in there just
Please.
To say that I feel like I agree. There is a lot of history between those two teams, even beyond Impact.
Yeah.
And if you've been kind of following along with, just even words being exchanged between them on Impact, I feel like it's Finjuice. I honestly do. That's my pick.
Steve Maclin, your opinion?
Finjuice has already been the Impact Tag Team Champions, and I think they're going to get those Impact Tag titles again as well on my end, just because you want to see them get their comeuppance, like Dee said, on the Good Brothers. And, I'm a fan of both of them anyway, just personally too. They're a good cohesive unit, and they work their asses off.
Well, no matter how you slice it, it's going to be a hell of a match. And then, of course, we have the Impact World title match. Josh Alexander, who was mentioned earlier in this show here as one of the very best in Impact Wrestling, versus, a legend in Impact Wrestling and just the business in general, the champion Christian Cage. Here's something. Christian Cage, again, we talk about the champions making everything come home to Impact, except for Finjuice. But everything coming home, hopefully, to Impact and staying in Impact. Christian Cage, what an interesting situation. That brings the Forbidden Door into the mix here. Christian being a part of AEW. But, man, if he is not in the DNA of Impact Wrestling, then I don't know who is. So You have Christian Cage defending against Josh Alexander in what is absolutely going to be a hard-hitting match. But Steve Maclin, we'll start with you. Who's walking out champion?
That's a tough one, just because Josh was the one guy I was looking at because he was the X Division champion, and that's the title I'm obviously going after that's vacant. But that's the guy I wanted, and props to him of having the balls to invoke option C, because he's betting it all on the line.
Yep.
He can walk out of there with everything, or he can walk out of there with nothing. And he's going against Christian, who, for me, growing up, is one of those guys I looked up to from a span standpoint, but now as a professional wrestler as well. He's somebody you look up to, and he's done it all in this business. But at the same time, he's got a lot of workload on his end with AEW, and he's constantly on the road traveling with AEW. Now he's on that Impact Wrestling as well. So he's working on both sides where you don't know, and it's a very hard decision. But at the same time, I would like to see Josh Alexander, because that's the matchup I would like to have down the road, because when I win the X Division title at Bound for Glory, option C is there for me as well.
Very well said. And yeah, great point about that with the option C as well, because that shows you Josh Alexander's confidence, right? To put everything aside and just lose the opportunity to walk around and just say, hey, at least I'm a champion. No, he wants to go and be the Impact World Champion. Deonna Purrazzo, your pick, Christian Cage or Josh Alexander?
I have no reservations about just saying Josh Alexander. I admire Josh from a wrestling standpoint. I think he's the greatest in the world. I love absolutely everything he does. And then, yeah, like Steve said, he invoked option C. He gave it all up, put it all on the line. And it's about bringing the championship home. I mean, I know Christian did that in his own way, but Josh deserves to be the Impact World Champion. And this is, besides my own match, one of the ones I'm most looking forward to.
Now, I'm not looking for a match myself, but I am probably going to steal that soundbite of Josh deserves to be Impact World Champion and just play that as though you're talking about me. So finally, Havok, Josh Alexander versus Christian Cage. Who do you have walking out champion?
Hands down, without a thought, Josh Alexander. I always say and have said for a while now, like, I think that Josh Alexander is one of the best wrestlers in the world. And he's honestly one of my favorite wrestlers to watch. I had the pleasure of, during our past pay-per-view Homecoming, I was ringside for Josh Alexander versus Black Taurus. And even in my head being ringside, I'm like, I have the best seat in the house for this match. But I was like, I wanted them both to win. Black Taurus is Decay. That is my family. But Josh Alexander, like I said, he's my favorite wrestler. So going into this, and even though, I mean, Christian Cage is God tier legend wrestler. Yes, absolutely. And I mean, there's a reason why, he beat Kenny for that title and brought it right back home. But Josh Alexander is going to come into Bound for Glory and walk out the new Impact World Champion. And I can't wait, because like Deonna and Steve said, he deserves this. I can't think of anyone else who deserves it more at this point. And he has been busting his ass. I mean, that Iron Man match that him and TJP had. Need I say more? Like, amazing. He's the best. So he's going to win. He's going to win, or we riot.
Hell yeah.
There you go. And if you want to watch it,
in the face.
Yeah.
if you want to watch this but not risk getting punched in the face, that's great. You don't have to be there live. You can be there on FITE. You can watch it. And, of course, the 1 hour countdown to Glory pre-show will begin at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. And the main card of Bound for Glory will be at 10:30 Eastern. All of this is available on FITE. Again, the event is the 2021 Impact Bound for Glory pay-per-view, the biggest night of the year for Impact Wrestling. Saturday, October 23rd from Sam's Town live in Las Vegas, all the way to you wherever you are in the world on FITE. For Steve Maclin, Deonna Purrazzo, Havok, thank you all so much. I'm Josh Shernoff, and we will see you October 23rd for Impact's Bound for Glory right here on FITE.